everybody, we had some interest in learning how to set up pole patterns for your practice days, so you can practice patterns and counting and footfalls when you're not in a lesson, which I think is so important. So the first thing I think is important to do is be able to walk a course, or to walk what a 3-foot step or what a 12-foot stride would be. So I think the most helpful way in doing that is to measure off 12 feet and then practice walking 4 of your steps should equal the 12-foot mark. So first thing I'm going to do is mark off 12 feet. So I have my tape measure here. I'm going to put it on the inside of this post, and you can do it any way you want. And I'm going to mark off 12 feet. So obviously it's a little difficult with the wind, but this is 12 feet right about here. My thing came off. So I'm going to tentatively mark this spot with a little piece of duct tape. And then I'm going to, I remeasured, it's 12 feet right at this little piece of duct tape from the end of that 4x4 post. Most poles are 12 feet, so you can also use a jumping pole to measure the 12-foot mark. But in some cases, people cut their poles down to 10 feet because of the arena size, getting them moved around. The 12-foot poles are a little heavier. So in some cases, it's just easier to have the shorter rails. To make sure you measure your rails before you just use them to mark your footballs. So first is, it's important to know if your steps are actually 3 feet, or if you're long-legged and maybe you're accidentally walking a 4-foot step, or you're short-legged and you're walking 2.5 feet. That's going to make a big difference in when you're setting poles. So practice knowing about what a 3-foot step is. So there should be 4 of my steps around 3 feet each to mark off a 12-foot or a 1 stride. Okay, so if I'm starting from the edge of this post, I'm going to walk 4 steps to my marker tape there. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's kind of right at my mark here. That's 12 feet. So it's important to know your steps and the length of your steps before setting a full course, so that your strides are even and you're actually practicing the striding correctly. That brings us back to the 12 feet we marked on the railing and practicing walking 3 feet for every step we take. So if I set this at 12 feet, I'm going to take 4 3-foot steps. 4 times 3 is 12. So that's how you get that number. So it's 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm going to drop the pole there just so we get an idea of what 12 feet is. So this is marking 1 stride. If you are cantering a pole and you want a 1 stride canter pole set, or related distance, if you set it at 12 feet, you are not taking into consideration where the horse is going to land into the line, where they're going to take off. So essentially, when the horse is cantering poles, they're going to land approximately 3 feet from the first rail. So that's going to put me here. And then we need some room for takeoff as well. And our horse should take off approximately, these poles, about 3 feet from the base of the next pole. So when I'm marking a 1 stride for poles, I'm going to walk my 12-foot stride. So 1 stride is 12 feet. And then I'm going to give myself 3 feet for landing and then 3 feet for takeoff. So I'm going to actually push this pole out an additional 6 feet so my horse can land, take a stride, and then canter over the second pole. So I'm going to walk another 6 feet. So that's 2 steps. 1, 2. Okay, so now this is set at a 1 stride distance. If we're coming in on a 12-foot step, okay, so if our horse is taking a 12-foot canter step. So another thing I do, because I'm notorious for setting my poles crooked, is I will walk the center and then I'll walk each side, especially if I'm setting a course. So I'm going to start back over here, since this was my starting pole, and I'm going to walk 18 feet. So that's 6 3-foot steps for my 1 stride. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So you can see that I kind of made this a little bit too long. So that's a good thing that we are rewalking. And then I'm going to walk it from this side. so now this is going to canter. If I am on a 12-foot canter stride, this should ride in a 1 stride. Another thing you want to make sure you're doing if you do canter between the standards, if you do set up with the poles between the standards, is removing our metal jump cups, making sure that these are not pointing out. If our horse, if we're not straight, or if our horse bulges to one side or spooks, we do not want them hitting these jump cups. Most of our jump cups are plastic, but you still want to remove them. Okay, so now we're going to set up a 4-stride pole line. This is a very easy pattern to set up, and there's a lot of ways you can practice over the 4-stride poles. So we're going to start with 3 feet for landing, 3 feet for takeoff, and now I'm going to walk 4 strides, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 1 stride, 1, 2, 3, 2 strides, 1, 2, 3, 3 strides, 1, 2, 3, 4 strides. There's my pole there. On a 12-foot canter step, this pole line should ride in 4 strides. You can play with a lot of different adjustments here on the 4-stride pole line. We can do our 12-foot canter step and get this in 4. We can play with adjusting the canter step, getting it in, a quieter step in 5, or a really collected canter in 6. So this is just a super basic pole pattern to set up, to practice knowing what step you're on, being able to adjust your horse's stride, and kind of know where you're at in a line. All right, so the wind died down enough for us to be able to ride some of the horses. I'm on Beadle, who is an amazing teacher. He has been there, done that. He knows his job very well, so he's a good one for me to show you how to do this exercise. A couple of things to consider when you are new to an arena or at a horse show or setting up a pattern is A, how big your arena is, because that's going to determine how easy it is to get on a big step, or if you tend to have to slow down a lot because you're constantly going forward and then there's a corner, and then you go forward and then there's a corner again because the ring is a little narrow and a little short. So if that's the case, one alteration you could make to your pole pattern is just making it like a foot or 2 shorter. Or, if you want to practice being able to get on a step in a small ring, you just leave it as is. Other thing to consider is the slope of the arena. So this arena slopes towards the trails over here. We have a drain over there. So the arena slopes a little bit down that way and a little bit down this way. So that's something you want to consider also when you're doing a pattern, is how that slope will affect your step. Your horse is going up a slope, they're going to slow down, just like a car or a bike or walking or running or whatever. If you're going down the slope, your horse is going to tend to want to get a little bit forward, maybe on a little bit bigger step than you desire, maybe a little on the forehand, not so balanced. So these are things that we want to take into consideration when we are planning a pattern and planning how to execute it, where we might need an extra half halt, where we might need a little more leg. I am going to canter this in how we set it, which was 4 strides, and then we can talk about adjustments we're going to make. So you want to get on what you think a 12-foot step is. We got on a nice 12-foot step. We had a nice 4 strides here. I felt my horse swing his haunch a little bit to the right, which this horse tends to do, and that's why I lost the lead. So next time I come through, I'm going to really think about keeping the bend. I might turn a tick earlier so I can kind of hold the bend to my poles and keep the haunch on track. I'm going to now come through the line in 5 strides. So now I'm going to come in on a little shorter stride. My horse is a little spooky in this corner. I'm just going to turn a little early. The 5 worked really well. I was able to hold the bend in the turn, even though he was a little looky in the corner because of the wind and the bushes. I held the bend a little bit better. I came in with a nice stride to give me a nice even 5 in the line. So those are a few variations for really simple pole pattern to kind of teach you what stride you're on and then how to count in the poles and how to make the distance between the two obstacles as even as we can. So if we come in forward, you know, we might need to balance in the middle. If we come in a little quiet, we might need to move up in the middle. And this is a great exercise to practice to build our eye, make our horse more adjustable, and also limit the wear and tear so we're not jumping them too much. This is something we can repeat many times, and it's not hard on our horses. So this is my first attempt at a little tutorial video. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop some comments below and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see.